Good morning everybody. صباح الخير. أولا بنشكر الأستاذ دكتور محمد صبحي على this meeting of very high quality for the attendant and for the الناس اللي هم بيشتغلوا معانا كلهم. وعلى الأسبوع اللي فات also for the heart failure meeting, and today I have the pleasure and the honor to be with Dr. Salah Tahan from Alexandria University. I am Hani Nametallah from Georges Pompidou University Hospital in Paris. Bonjour Thierry, bonjour tout le monde à Paris et bienvenue au Caire, au Champ du Caire. Voilà. We will begin at once actually in discussing a very important point, the CT coronary angio, which is becoming actually one of the diagnostic tools even in the emergency department of a lot of big university hospital and private hospital even, to diagnose very rapidly if the patient is ischemic or not. But we have to know and that this multi-slice test must be done for low and medium high risk patient, but for high risk patient actually all trends are not recommending really. If it's high risk patient, is better to do directly other things. We know actually there is a very important study which is called the Scott Hart study. It was very relevant that the hypodense stenosis plaques is very much dangerous than the calcified, even more stenotic plaques. So actually there is a lot of studies defining that the hypodense plaques are linked to myocardial infarction 5 times more than the highly calcified plaques. So I think we will discuss all this point with the professors from Paris Sud. And we will begin actually directly with Dr. Thomas Havas for the multi-slice is needed over day. Alors vous pouvez commencer, voilà.
Hello.
Hello. We can hear you very good.
Hello.
Nice. Thank you again for the invitation. We are very happy to be with you today. So MSCT, as you just say, become more and more part of the modern cardiology. And in fact, it's quite an old exam in cardiology. We use CT now since 2003, and as you know, for this exam, we need an EKG synchronization which permit a 3D cardiac reconstruction. And for sure, we have a technical specificity for this acquisition, and you need a high-speed CT at least under 400 milliseconds per turn, which associated with small slice permit a good coronary evaluation because those structures coronary are small and tortuous. You need also to have a quick acquisition because you will ask an apnea to the patient, and it's not always easy for patients to do more than 10 to 15 seconds. And for all that, you will need a modern MSCT with at least 64 detectors. So you will have a different possibility of presentation, the 3D, as you see on the left, the MIP projection, which is more likely to be used in structural, and the coronary view, which you see on the right part of the screen, which is the one used for coronary assessment. So the exam is quite quick for the acquisition. As you can see here, it can be a little bit longer if there is a lot of calcification for the physician to make the analysis. Radiation are not so much a problem anymore. As you can see, in 2009, the MSCT was generally 8 to 15 millisieverts per acquisition, and now in 2020 with modern CT, you can have a very nice acquisition with only 3 millisieverts, which is, I think, equivalent to a diagnostic coro. So the CT is the best exam, even better than an angio, to see coronary abnormalities. And you see very well on the left part an abnormal origin of the left main, which is going between aorta and pulmonary artery and making potentially risk for the patient with the risk of left main compression during the exercise. At the contrary, on the right part of the screen, you can see that there is also an abnormal origin of the left main from the right sinus, but this one going front of the pulmonary artery. So there is absolutely no risk of arterial compression. You can see very well also the graft by the CT, and it is a very good exam to see if the grafts are patent. And as we all know, as an interventional cardiologist, an angio for graft can be long. There is a little more complication for these exams, especially cerebral complication. The coronary assessment, at least, it's very important. And as you can see, I think the CT is very, very important now, and that's a little bit new, because even if you are very good to see non-significant stenosis, you can make a stratification between the same patient, the same risk, the same age, between a patient with absolutely no atheroma, normal coronary, a little, very few atheroma, minor atheroma, moderate, and high atheroma, and all this with non-significant lesion. And for sure, the patient with normal artery, strictly normal, no atheroma, which maybe needs a follow-up, which is not the same, that the exactly same patient with a lot of atheroma. Even if both have non-significant lesion, you will say, maybe if there is a moderate dyslipidemia, in one case I will treat it, in the other I will not, because the coronary artery are strictly normal. So it's very, I think, interesting for this exam to have an assessment of the atheroma. So you can see here moderate atheroma with non-significant lesion. You can see also that we are very good to see very tight lesion on the left main and ostial LID on the left, on a diagonal up, and right coronary right down. It's a good exam for the left main because it's a big coronary, so you can see quite well lesion of the ostium, which are somehow sometimes tricky to see on the angio, because if you engage a little bit your guiding, you will not see a disease of the ostial left main when it's short. You can assess, and you can see here a lot of calcification, and you can, so the analysis of this CT is quite difficult because there is a lot of calcification, but you can conclude for sure that there is a multi-truncular disease. So CT is very good for calcified lesion. So you can assess very well. You can make measurement of calcified lesion by the calcium scoring of the coronary. Stent, it's a little bit more debated, I think. I think we can assess stents when they are at least 3 millimeters diameter. If you have a long, small stent, CT will not be as good as you can expect, and it's not, I think, a good exam for small stents. So you can see rostenosis, you can see in-state occlusion, as you can see here on the right on this image. And what's new? You tell us just before this presentation that there is new recommendation, and in fact there is a strong now recommendation for the CT, and you can see now CT in the European 2019 recommendation is a class 1 exam as an initial test for diagnosis in symptomatic patients whom coronary artery disease cannot be excluded by a clinical assessment alone. So you can see it's true now in US, it's true in UK, it's part of the new European recommendation. So CT is going back, I want to say, at the front line of the coronary diagnosis. And I think it's an exam you can really do easily for low and intermediate risk patients. So you can will also found something. You can also will found other things performing CT as hypertrophic cardiomyopathy. You will also see terrible images like this with this ventricular aneurysm bigger than the LV. And for sure, you can't speak about CT without speaking about valvulopathy. And CT now is mandatory for every patient you want to refer for a TAVI. But also you can see here on the upper part left that it's very reliable to make an aortic surface measurement. And we have more and more patients whom are referred when the echo is litigious, when it's not clear, to assess the aortic valvular surface and to say if there is significant stenosis or not. So you can really assess if the aortic valve is bicuspid, as you can see here, or tricuspid. And it's a much more reliable exam than the echo to make all the measurements you need on the aortic annulus, which is the main criteria to choose the valve. And I want to say more than that, I think now in TAVI, really the CT is even more important than the clinical maybe indication, because the CT will permit you to predict if the result of the TAVI will be good or not. If the anatomy is not good, if the anatomy is hostile, you will say, okay, the TAVI maybe is not the right choice for this patient, and I will rather go for surgery. So it's really the CT, the annulus, and the aortic CT, which will say, okay, it's a good patient for TAVI or it's not a good patient for TAVI. So CT is really the exam for this kind of patient. So you can see here different images of aortic annulus. Here, type 0 bicuspid valve. You can see also with CT other structural things such as intraventricular thrombus, as you can see here. You can see left appendage thrombus. In those cases, you will need generally to do a second acquisition 3 minutes after the injection to have a late enhancement acquisition. to be sure that there is a thrombus and not a flow disturbance. And you can see here this late acquisition. You can see here there is a posterobasal aneurysm. You can't say if there is a thrombus or not. And with the late acquisition, you can see very well that there is really a thrombus at this point. And you can see here in the other view, here you can't say very much, you can say very well if there is something. And with the late enhancement view, you can see very well it's a thrombus. You can, in some cases, find things like this, which is a cardiac tumor here. Here, another benign, it's a myxoma of the heart, as you can see here. We have also CT before arrhythmia ablation. We have also CT when you want to do a cardiac resynchronization and you want to assess really where you want to put the lead in the right in the sinus and where to go to have the best resynchronization as possible. And here you have an interauricular communication. So it's really nice to assess if you will be able to close it percutaneously or to refer it to a surgeon. And as we say, the CT is the best exam for calcification. So you can see very well also if there is a pericardial calcification, as you can see very well in this case. For congenital cardiopathy, we also have demands for CT, and it can help before surgery. You will find also doing CT pulmonary embolism. So you do not do a cardiac CT for that, but you will look after it each time to look after the you will look for the lungs, you will look for the pulmonary artery to avoid to miss something important. And you will look also for the aorta, and you can see here very big dissection and aneurysm of the ascending aorta. So to conclude, I will say that CT is quite an old exam, but it's a new life for it since 2 years, and it is coming back, as you say, for coronary assessment on the front line, as well as the test we use to do exercise test, myocardial scintigraphy, MRI, exercise test, exercise echo. And CT is no part of them. Thank you very much for your attention.
Thank you very much, Dr. Thomas, for this comprehensive and clinical application for the CT, not only for coronary arteries, but for TAVI and all the other applications that will help for clinical, sure. I would like to ask you a specific question about how can the CT coronary angio differentiate between unstable plaque and stable plaque, hypodense, stable and unstable. As we know, it's a high risk for myocardial infarction. Can actually we be sure that it can specific saying that this is unstable plaque or stable plaque?
In my experience, it's not so easy. When you have, you can see a lipid core sometimes in the plaque, you can see ulceration. But if there is really a non-significant, if there is a significant plaque, you will ask for angio or ischemic assessment. And if there is non-significant plaque, unless you have ulceration or a big lipid core in the plaque, it's not so easy, to my experience, to say if it's unstable or not. But for sure, it's better to have this exam, because if you do, if there is a non-significant plaque and you do an exercise test, it will be normal. And the CT show you this plaque and say, okay, there is something which is maybe not critical or not significant at the moment, but the patient needs a follow-up, which is not the one you will have choose with only an exercise test. So it's really, I think, important on you to have this anatomical view and to say, okay, there is something.
And for your experience, if you have a score, calcium score at 0, do you continue the exam or you stop the CT coronary?
I'm not fond of calcium scoring, because I've seen so many patients with non-calcified atheroma. So you can have a moderate or high atheroma with non-significant lesion or significant lesion with calcium scoring at 0 or less than 200, and it's I think it's not so nice, the calcium scoring alone. So I don't like to do only calcium scoring. And now as I said, the X-ray delivered by the CT is quite low. The contrast is also quite low, between 50 to 70 cc. So I think it's really acceptable for most of the patients. And I see if you only do a calcium scoring assessment, the exam is still incomplete.
Professor Salah.
Okay. Thank you, Professor Thomas, for your elegant lecture. I have two questions for you. First, what about the use of multi-slide CT for planning for cases of CTO or bifurcation lesion? The second question, we have old protocol that we call triple rule out protocol. Is it still in use, or it is an old fashion now?
So for the first question, I think CT can be complementary for the coronary angio only if there is something you don't understand. If you don't see an artery, if in a CTO you have an ambiguity of the coronary, you don't see the proximal cap, you don't understand the angio, CT can be very helpful. If you fail the previous CTO because of ambiguity, the CT can be very helpful. For bifurcation, I'm not sure. Again, if there is something very unusual and you don't understand something, CT can be helpful. But in most of the case, I think it's not a big help now for bifurcation, and it can be an help for CTO previously failed. And for your second question, I think triple rolled out has been a little bit, how do you say, abandoned now, because the acquisition parameters are really not the same to eliminate coronary artery disease, pulmonary embolism, or aortic anomaly, aortic dissection. So if you want to see very well the coronary, you will need specifically to do a coronary acquisition, and that means that the accuracy of the diagnostic for the aorta or for the pulmonary embolism will not be so good. So I don't think it's I think we must have a clinical evaluation, and the clinical evaluation will say, okay, we need a coronary CT or a pulmonary CT or an aortic CT.
I think one of the main indications now for multi-slice CT angiography is the evaluation of the grafts after CABG and patient representing with coronary artery disease. I think before we are doing any intervention, we have to do multi-slice CT for the graft and see what is happening after that.
Yeah, it's a very good exam to see if the grafts are patent. So it's I think for the follow-up of this patient is a very nice exam. You can't do it all years because you will have X-ray exposure, which will become a little bit high. But it's a very nice exam to see if a graft is occluded or not, and maybe much more easier than the angio. But the drawback of the CT for the patient with graft, it's that the native coronary are very generally very calcified, and there is a lot of atheroma at this point, and the analysis of the native coronary can be very difficult. But for the graft, it's a very nice exam.
Thank you, Thomas, for this elegant presentation. I'm Karim Mahmoud from Cairo University. I have two questions for you. First question regarding the assessment of patient with previous coronary stenting. How would you choose between the physiological imaging such as stress MBI or the vitamin echo, or anatomical imaging such as CT? In other words, is there a situation you would prefer a multi-slice CT over a physiological imaging for assessment of these patients? And the second one regarding, you know now we are screening a lot of young patients with multi-slice CT for coronary artery disease. What about the safety of re-exposing them again, let's say within 4 to 5 years for another CT for exclusion of obstructive coronary artery disease?
The X-ray problem, you mean? Yeah. So for the first question, I think that, to my opinion, if you have the possibility to do a functional test for the follow-up of asymptomatic patient with previous stents, maybe it's better. Because CT is very nice, as I said, for big stents, for the left main, for the proximal LAD. But in some cases, when there are some calcification around the stent, when there are moderate atheroma, the diagnostic can be a little bit uncertain. So it can be disappointing. So if there is a patient who need a control at 1 year of angioplasty of the left main, CT can be a good exam. But in other case, I really I'd rather go for a stress MRI, for example, to follow up these patients. And for your second question, sorry, I think that if you do low dose CT for young patient, you can do 2 millisieverts, so it's quite acceptable. Because if you do a cardiac, for example, thoracic CT, you will do 8 to 10 to 12 millisieverts, and there is no problem to do it. So you can do one CT, you can do one CT each 3 or 4 years without any problem with the low dose CT, but I will not do it each year for sure.
Thank you, Thomas, for the great talk. Mohammed Zahran from Ain Shams. I would like to ask you about the virtual CT FFR or the CT-derived FFR. Do you have any experience about combining those kinds of softwares, flow dynamics and anything? And how do you see, do they have a place in the future for the practice to get a CT-derived FFR?
Yes, probably. Probably there will be very interesting, but it's very difficult to have the CT FFR routinely in daily practice, because there is only two society in which you can send your images and they will send you back the FFR. So it's time consuming, it's quite costly. It's at least, I think, 500 euros per exams. So it's not easy to do it. But I think when we'll have a dedicated software in our city for FFR, it will be very interesting, and I think it will be very helpful and very useful, and it should be part of the future city.
Professor محمد صبحي تفضل.
Regarding the stenting again, yesterday we have a presentation regarding in-stent restenosis.
Yeah.
And there is an algorithm regarding the mechanism, either new atherosclerosis or new interval proliferations. And this can be done by the IVAS or OCT. And this will take a decision during the core lab. How can we make it in non-invasively to differentiate and then to conclude which technique you're going to use, either DCP or stenting DS? Can you get it by CT, or just saying that in instant restenosis? So you cannot get the mechanism or not?
I don't think so. Maybe in very large artery with very big and with with new stents, small struts, big stents. So maybe you can, but I think routinely in daily life practice, it's we will be disappointed by the CT in those indications.
Dr. Terry, vous avez un commentaire? Do you have any comment, please?
No, thank you. I think the presentation of Thomas was very good. We had a lot of discussion. I think it was very nice. And I think that you follow the advice of Thomas that CT is very useful in daily practice, not only for coronaries, but also for structural heart disease and different cardiomyopathies, thrombus, etc. So I think it's maybe time to move to the next presentation by Professor Jérôme Garot about MRI.
Okay. So, okay, you have one last question?
Yeah, good morning, Thomas. Thank you for elegant presentation. I am Ahmed Hosni from Mansoura University. Regarding a practical point in multi-slice CT coronary angiography, diagnostic accuracy for multi-slice in aortoosteal stenosis, and the second question in multiple or significant tortuosity, especially in the mid-segment and distal segment of the vessel. Many patients and for significant stenosis in distal or mid-coronary stenosis for coronary angiography, and when I made the coronary angiography for the patient, I just show that severe tortuosity reading by multi-slice coronary as a significant stenosis, especially at the bend of that tortuosity. So to conclude, what is the diagnostic accuracy in practical point of view regarding aortoosteal and severe tortuosity?
So it's the CT will be very nice for aortoosteal lesion for the right of the left main, because the artery are generally quite big at this point, and you will see very well if there is a caliber loss at the ostium. And I agree with you, when you have very severe tortuosity, more than 180 degrees, it will be more and more difficult to see if there is a lesion, or if it's only will be an artifact. So the CT will be less accurate when you have a really severe tortuosity.
Thank you very much, Dr. Thomas. Professor Salah will present the next speaker.
Thank you, Professor Thomas.
Thank you.
Now we have